that hurts every single time that I do it. This is the Morning Buzz on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. I'm
So
the
then
host
why?
of the
So,
Wednesday edition, Kenny Horn. I am joined by my co-host today, Trevor Gioia.
yo. So then why do you do it?
Our newscaster, Trevor. Why can't I hear you speaking? What is wrong with everything here? Uh-oh, that doesn't matter. We got other people too. We have our newscaster, Francis Churchill. Francis, say something. Make me feel like it's not just me.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just doing the
Okay, I
sound
can hear you just barely, but I can hear
Hey,
you.
everybody. Hope you're all
Hello.
having a wonderful morning with this beautiful weather.
All right, Thomas Tarter,
Morning.
our sportscaster. Trevor, give it another go. I think I had to figure out what the problem was.
He's busy adjusting his microphone.
He's busy adjusting. I still got nothing, but that's okay. He'll be back shortly. So
He's here in spirit.
he is here in spirit. We've got a lot coming up today. We have got. I'm excited for one of our last stories later today. It's about a guy who broke a record with 5 M&Ms. That's all I'm gonna say. So we've got a lot in store. Francis, before we get with all of that, please tell us the newscast.
So today, in terms of recent news, we have a lot of, new impactful stories. And one of the ones in terms of national news is now that American authorities have seized a massive array of state-linked news sites to the Iranian government. And the U.S. Justice Department said that on Tuesday, the move was done as a crackdown on Iranian media to prevent spreading of disinformation and the heightened tensions between the two countries. However, a lot of people have raised concerns as whether or not this violates the First Amendment and also government censorship about information coming out that the U.S. government may not like. Now, going into New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy and the New Jersey CEO Council, a coalition of CEOs within the New Jersey, massive New Jersey companies, announced on June 21st that they are launching a program called New Jersey Pay It Forward. The program will provide interest and fee-free loans from a revolving fund to support low-income New Jersey career seekers and small businesses affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And regarding Montclair news, on Tuesday, Montclair State held a special rededication ceremony for the newly retired president, Susan Cole. The recently renovated College Hall was renamed in her honor as Susan A. Cole Hall, and WMSC's Patricia Geiger has the story.
This is Patrina Geiger with your news update. On June 22nd, Montclair State University held a ceremony to rededicate the newly renovated College Hall to President Cole, naming it Susan A. Cole Hall just less than a year after it was reopened. President Cole has led the university for 23 years while having grown and developed new academic buildings. The ceremony in Cole Hall had one of its biggest crowds yet, with lots of alumni, students, and faculty. Francis M. Cuss, chair of the Board of Trustees, spoke first, welcoming everybody, thanking President Cole, and invited her to speak at the podium about her time at Montclair State University. I got the chance to speak with President Cole after her speech and asked her about some of her proudest and greatest memories at Montclair State University, and this is what she said.
The big memory that I will take away is the memory of all of the generations of students who have come, succeeded, and graduated while I was here. I loved watching them walk across the stage at commencement and knowing that we did something to change their lives and make their lives better.
After Cole's 23 years of leading the university, she will be retiring this summer and will have Jonathan G.S. Coppell take the role as the new president of Montclair State University. For WMSC, I'm Patrina Geiger.
Now, in regards to weather today, we see that it's relatively sunny out, and with the average temperature right now of being that of roughly 65 degrees and with expected highs of 79 and lows of 55.
Yes. Thank you, Francis. We also have a little bit of a clip from Dr. Cole that she has about her memories at the university. Let's play that real quick.
The big memory that I will take away is the memory of all of the generations of students who have come, succeeded, and graduated while I was here. I loved watching them walk across the stage at commencement and knowing that we did something to change their lives and make their lives better. I will also remember the work that our faculty did in research and creating new knowledge and reaching out with that knowledge to make the world better. So
That's amazing. Yeah.
that's what I think.
Thank you, Dr. Cole, for everything that you've done in your 23 years here at the university. It was truly, like, I mean, I guess I have to say life-changing, even though it was before I was born, but my life would be different
Yeah.
without you. So,
It would be a little bit different.
Trevor, I can hear you! Praise the Lord! We are ready now. We are good. Except we're even better now because Thomas is going to tell us the sportscast.
Yes, I will. All right. So we have some results from last night's games. First, in hockey, the Canadiens are now 1 win away from the Stanley Cup final, as last night they defeated the Vegas Golden Knights by a score of 4-1. Nick Suzuki had a goal and an assist in the win. And now tonight at 8, the Islanders will look to avoid elimination against the Tampa Bay Lightning. In NBA news, last night the Suns defeated the Clippers 104-103 to take a 2-0 series lead, with DeAndre Ayton scoring 24 points, including the game-winning alley-oop in the last second of the game. Tonight at 8:30, the Hawks will be taking on the Bucks in their first game matchup. Last night, the Nationals beat the Phillies 3-2. The Royals beat the Yankees 6-5. And the Braves beat the Mets 3-0. Now, tonight in baseball games, the Nationals will be taking on the Phillies at 1:05. Then the Royals will be taking on the Yankees at 7:05. And the Braves will be taking on the Mets at 7:10. Just some quick sports stories. So, Raiders defensive end Carl Nassib's jersey is now the #1 selling NFL jersey according to Fanatics. This comes a day after the defensive end announced on an Instagram post that he was gay. This makes him the first actively playing gay player in NFL history. President Joe Biden tweeted support for Nassib, stating that "I'm so proud of your courage. Because of you, countless kids around the world are seeing themselves in a new light today." And on this day in sports history, on this day in 2005, the San Antonio Spurs defeated the Detroit Pistons in Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
Thank you, Thomas. That news about Carl Nassib, that's huge. We have
Yeah.
more about that later on the show. We'll
Yeah,
talk
we do.
a lot about that. But our first story today, Trevor, you prepared it for us. Can you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, sure. I'll try my best. Young Americans continue to resist the COVID vaccine. Less than half have received 1 dose of the COVID vaccine. This is coming from the AP News, and also coming from the fact that there's this weird occurrence happening. Not weird, but it's a mixture of things, and I can tell you, it's not just one thing. But 7 out of 10 Americans age 30 or older have received at least 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. But less than half of those 24 and younger have not been vaccinated. The White House said on Tuesday. The Biden administration released new data that expects to reach 70% of Americans age 27 and older with at least 1 shot by July 4th holiday. And the part that worries me is the part that I really found very interesting is the White House press secretary said what we've seen, we dug for the data there's a big gap between individuals 25 and older and 18 to 25. White House press secretary said that on Monday.
This is so odd to me, this story, because it's
Yeah.
weird. According to this story, which I do believe, I don't think that they're lying or the facts are wrong, numbers don't lie. Less than 50% of young Americans haven't gotten the vaccine, but it's interesting to me because every one of the people I know, without fail, has received the vaccine. So I'm curious. Out of us four, statistically speaking, two of us shouldn't have received it. I know I did.
I know I did, and
did?
the thing is this: it's a mixture of factors. It's like social media.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Francis, Thomas,
I've received it, but I
you
think
got it.
also a huge reason as to why those numbers are so low isn't even the fact that they're resisting it, is that it's only become available to them recently. And a lot of people made the decision to wait until older people and more at-risk people within their communities got the COVID-19 vaccines for their own reasons. And because of that, and also the fact that a huge amount of that statistics is people that are 18 and younger, and that vaccines only just become available to them and is still in the process of being rolled out. I don't know that we can look at those numbers yet and say, well, that shows that young people are far more likely to resist the COVID-19 vaccine. I just think it's a huge factor of the vast majority of that population was 18 and younger, and they've only just recently become available for that COVID-19 vaccine. And the way they're rolling it out, obviously, to give the vaccine out to minors isn't like we're adults where we can quite literally just go to any COVID-19 vaccination site and get the COVID-19 vaccine now. It's different for those that are younger than 18.
It is
yeah,
different. But
yeah.
one thing that Trevor didn't touch on is that the group that he's talking about is actually the 18 to 24 age group. It's 47% inoculation for that age group, and for 25 to 39, it's even 53%. So that's a adult group. Obviously, you didn't know that because it wasn't said. But even then, that's still. Wait, I'm curious. Thomas, are you vaccinated?
I am fully vaccinated. Yes.
Okay, come on.
Like it doesn't. It's one of those things that doesn't make sense, and it's like it could be a mixture of factors in terms of like from one of my workers at one of my coworkers at my comic book shop just says I don't want it because I'm gonna get natural immunity.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't.
natural
Ooh.
immunity isn't as safe as a proven vaccine. And it's also, there have been cases of people, it isn't, as common, but there
I
have
know
been cases
somebody who
of
got it
people getting
twice.
COVID twice,
Yeah.
and it
I-
still messes up their body. And like, unless there's people that are like, through another medical prognosis are immune to it, which is actually, I mean, I don't know the statistical numbers, but I know a decent amount of people who do, even who are very young and healthy, but they have pre-existing medical conditions, and they also got COVID, and because of that, they don't have, there aren't required medically to get the vaccine to say like go to certain universities because they're medically exempt from it. But also a huge factor as well is the fact that COVID-19 is statistically, it still obviously is dangerous, but it's far less dangerous to young people than it is old people. And with a huge amount of the old population already vaccinated, many of them feel, well, the most at-risk people are already vaccinated. So there's no point in me getting a vaccine to where I'm not as likely to get as sick and be in as much critical health danger from getting COVID-19 than, say, an older person. That's also a massive mindset as well that you see in younger people is, well, if the at-risk population is already, vaccinated after a certain point, there's no point in me getting this COVID-19 vaccine.
Yeah.
Now, there's also obviously been the Delta variant that's arisen, especially in the UK, and it's also starting to spike here in the US, where it's even more infectious and even more deadly than the original COVID-19 variants. So it's both a factor in social media information, people not having the right access to information with the COVID-19 vaccine, because a lot of people that are skeptical about the vaccine do have reasonable questions because, again, back in, even just as an example, specifically with minority people, in the 1950s, there was something called the Tuskegee experiment, where the US government experimented with African Americans and actually wound up killing them by giving them doses of specific chemicals to use in a medical study. So because of examples like that, there are people that are quite literally worried in minority communities about getting a vaccine that could be potentially used to kill them, and especially with COVID-19 conspiracies, that's something that's ramped up within minority communities.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
also another massive issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
One part that you mentioned there was the mindset that people in our age group, generally
They're
speaking,
far less
they are
likely
not
to-
the ones that are
Yeah.
at risk.
at risk
Which-
of COVID.
Yeah,
But it also goes back to this idea of like being a teen, being like that in the 20s and 19 and teens, thinking that you're invincible, right?
I
Well,
how common is that thought?
I was gonna say, like, like I have to agree that I think it's like a lot of them like have like something going on where like they're worried about taking the vaccine, and I don't think it's fair to paint anybody that doesn't want to take the vaccine as like a far right anti like vaccination person.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
no, I agree
there
with you
have
there.
been legitimate issues with vaccines in the past. Now, obviously, this vaccine has been so far proven to be healthy, and it's so far proven to have minimal effects. But there's also, there's been significant amount of cases of people, specifically with women, especially even younger women, getting their second dose, and how it really messes them up for several days, if not a week. So their concern is, well, if this vaccine is potentially going to mess me up and I'm not, at much risk of getting COVID, and the vast majority of the at-risk population of COVID-19 is already vaccinated, and their mindset, their view is, well, what's the point of getting the vaccine? And a lot of that's due to not enough information coming out to them that, hey, getting the vaccine is still the most assured way to get it rather than natural immunity, because there are several cases that we've already seen with COVID-19 that natural immunity isn't an end-all be-all defense. And also the fact that there's this new Delta variant that so far several studies out of universities and medical groups within Britain and the British Medical Group have actually shown the COVID-19 vaccines to be very effective against the Delta variant.
Francis,
So it is still the best avenue to go on.
I have a quick question. So
Yeah.
basically, in the sense of fudge, I forgot the
Thank you for saying fudge, Trevor. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I forgot
FCC,
the
you won't
question.
catch us today.
I forgot the question. I
It's
totally
all right.
lost my train of thought.
It's all right. It happens, Trevor. As long as we can hear you talking, I'll be all happy. I will be all happy, Trevor. But
Yeah.
the big thing about the story is I feel like I was actually just talking to a friend about this. He just got his first shot. And it's because he actually had his scheduled for earlier, but then he actually got COVID and he wasn't able to do it for a while. I'm wondering if that can be a factor in this and how many people are. And it's typically people of our age who've gotten it for just a big trend of it, really.
I remember what I was going to say.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Trevor.
Since COVID is, since most of the people who have the vaccine are older, wouldn't logic dictate that the COVID would go to the unvaccinated people?
It would, but it's statistically much less likely to harm them than it is with older people. And that's with any variant of COVID-19. It's far less likely to harm young people. It is still a dangerous virus, but it is nowhere near as dangerous. Like if you were to look at the populations and you were to go from an age group statistically of say 30 and younger, COVID-19 is obviously still, a health concern, but it's not as likely to be a life-threatening concern to people that are far older. So in their mind, if the at-risk group that is way easier to, get severely sick, compromised, and or die from COVID is already vaccinated. And for me, it's not that much worse than statistically other diseases that, say if you have a healthy immune system and you've already been vaccinated when you were a younger kid for these other diseases, and their mindset, it's just like, it's not worth the scheduling, it's not worth the wait, and it's not worth the potential reaction. And in their view, long-term side effects, even though there's statistically far less likely long-term side effects from the vaccine than there is from COVID, due to the social media information that they may consume, they may see the vaccine as more dangerous than COVID-19. So that's probably the view set of those people. And obviously, statistically, that isn't true. But also, I feel like if you want people to get vaccinated, you shouldn't be automatically labeling those people as combative or trying to resist it, in my view. Those are people that just need to be given the right information. Because again, people's opinions can change and people's minds can sway when given new information. And also, like I had mentioned before, with specific minority communities, there has been an actual history of the U.S. government experimenting on minorities with shots given into their bodies. So there is some legitimate worry within those communities about getting the COVID-19 vaccine. I think it's more so about educating them properly is the best way to get people to get the vaccine.
Yes. Thank you, Francis. So that mean at the end of the day, all I want to say about this is please just get the vaccine. That's all I got to say. We're going to move on to our next story. We touched upon it in the sportscast. Carl Nassib is the first active NFL player to come out as gay. This is great news. He plays for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's the defensive end. He announced this on Monday. Nassib, he is entering his 6th NFL season, and this is his 2nd with the Raiders. He announced it on Instagram, and he said that he wasn't doing it for any attention, but he wanted to feel representation and visibility were important. Quote, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say that I'm gay. End quote. That is exactly what he said. Nassib said this in his video message from his home in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Quote, I have been meaning to do this for a while now, but I finally feel comfortable enough to get it off my chest. End quote. Penn State coach James Franklin said he and his wife Fumi were inspired by Nassib's statement, and they donated $10,000 to the Trevor Project, which is based a lot on anti-discrimination against people LGBTQ+. Sarah K. Ellis, she is the president and the CEO of GLAAD, GLAD, a leading LGBTQ+ advocacy organization, said that Nassib's story will not only have profound impact on the future of visibility and acceptance in sports, but more importantly, it sends a strong message to many, many, many LGBTQ plus people, especially youth, that they too can one day grow up to be and succeed as a professional athlete like him. Man, those are a lot of letters. That's hard to say sometimes. This is great news.
It is.
Yeah, I remember Thomas. I guess out of us four, you know the most about sports, most likely. But
Yes.
yeah, but what I'm thinking about is what I don't remember. Wasn't there a guy going into the NFL or at least in the draft that announced himself as gay years ago? Not like not like decades, but like 5-10 years ago.
I
Or
don't
am I?
know. Tell me.
There could have been. I know that a lot of them, like a lot of like the stars of like the not some a few of the stars of like the past decades have come out after like
Yeah.
they retired like years later.
Yeah, which is
But
completely
yeah,
different.
this is the first ever actively gay NFL player, so that definitely changed things, and I think that goes with the changing time socially.
Yeah, no, it
This-
definitely does.
We're definitely becoming a more tolerant society. I was actually reading a few weeks ago that there was actually a poll that showed that actually there were now more conservatives in favor of gay marriage than opposed to it.
Really, I didn't know
So,
that. Do you remember what the
yeah.
statistic was?
I'm trying to pull it up now.
All right,
So,
Trevor.
it's great that he just said that and he didn't make a whole big he didn't make a whole big thing about it. He said, "Yeah, I'm gay." And it's like that's just putting it out there. That's really admirable and just saying, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." That's a very very honorable thing for him to do.
Yeah, it's important he made the announcement during Pride Month, where a lot of people people are coming out all around the year. I assume, I can't speak for it myself, I assume that it's more prevalent in the month of June. Like I said, it's Pride Month, where just LGBTQ support is at its highest throughout the year. And I keep on thinking back to like what if
Mhm.
a NFL star, like a superstar, a Hall of Famer, back in the 70s when in the height of his career came out.
That would have been the end of his career.
Would have been the end of his
Yeah,
career.
that would have been the end of his career.
Exactly. That
Unfortunately.
is exactly what I'm thinking too. Would have been the end of his career. And the fact that not only is this not the end of this guy's career, he is still playing 6th season, going into his 6th season. He's just getting into the height of his time in the NFL. He is becoming an icon. And not only that, it's accepted, and I'm sure among the vast majority of everybody who's going to playing a game with,
Yeah.
they don't really care.
It's going back to the thing of like, it's going back to this thing of like, it's like putting the player before who he is as a person, if that makes sense. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
And when you think about it, everywhere it's required by law to not discriminate because of your sexual orientation, your sexual identity, anything like that. Race, can't discriminate if you're going to be employed at a place of work. While we may not see it as it sometimes, the National Football League is technically a place of work, except for a living they just tackle each other and bulldoze through each other. But this is an important step, and while I'm sure it wasn't as actively said as it was in other places at times, this shows the step in the right direction of keeping up to that no workplace discrimination, because this technically is a workplace.
Yeah, it technically is, and it's really nice to see the fact that he under it's putting the fact that he's a really good player first and respected in his in the football in like the Las Vegas Raiders, and going into sixth season, that's really good for a player,
Yeah.
right, Thomas?
Yeah, it's also
Yeah.
really good as well that he also was putting up links to resources to help out the LGBTQ plus community and resources to both still pending legal battles and lawsuits across the country that also affect people that are trans color and also non-binary people as well, and to more push the culture of gay acceptance as well, and having that on a massive platform in the biggest sport in America and a massive star. And that video's literally gone viral on Instagram. It has, if not a million likes, nearly a million likes just on that video individually. So for that, it's really showing of giving a massive platform to an LGBTQ plus person within sports as well, which sports also, when people are given massive platforms, have also changed cultures and political landscape significantly over the years. So I think it's just going to lead to more and more change societally and
Yeah.
a more accepting culture.
Yeah, I agree with that. I very much see that eventually. I see that. And it's going to be a lot more healthier because it's going to be more out there and upfront with everything. If I'm, yeah,
Yeah, and this is a landmark moment, not only in NFL history, in sports history. The NFL I would argue it's America's pastime. They've been saying that about baseball for decades, but I'd argue that it's actually the NFL. And in what is, in my opinion, the biggest sport in America, a trend that has literally been going on for 100 years has changed. That is huge. And now the next step is really, well, it shows that there's an active player in the league that identifies as gay. And the next step that can be taken is that if somebody, let's say, for example, a college student declares for the draft, their draft position, or even if the fact that they get drafted or not, won't be affected by that. It opens up a whole new world, like the president of GLAD said about giving people the dreams that they can one day grow up to be a professional athlete.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think it's changed the perception of the LGBT community as well. Because like when you think about um a person within the gay community, you don't really think like football defensive end or like
that's,
athlete. So I definitely think it's
Yeah,
inspiration.
that's a great point, Thomas. That it expands like the scope of what somebody who you would typically imagine a gay man is. That
yeah,
well, that's very discriminatory. What many people would imagine it as, and the fact that he's a defensive end in football, his job is literally to just destroy a quarterback and just wreak havoc on the field. I did that right. Football's the one sport that I actually do know. It
yeah.
is just huge.
It's very huge. It's very much a seismic shift
Seismic shift. That's a great way to
That's
put it.
that's the best one. Yeah. Because it's showing the fact that everybody can be accepted.
Exactly. Everybody
And
can be accepted. And here at WMSC, we accept everybody because we care about everybody. And really, it should not matter what your interests are or how you identify to anybody else. What's most important is if you feel like you're being your authentic self. We're going to take a quick break here in 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. We'll be back very shortly, just about 2 minutes. That's not that long. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Morning Buzz at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Just as that robot just said, we are here. We are here to give you the news, the fun stuff. We got a whole big show lined up for you for the rest of this show. You missed the first half, but don't worry, we have a lot in store for you.
Yep.
Trevor, can you bring us to our next story?
Our next story is how big tech created a treasure trove for police. It's in recent years, we've had big tech and like huge cases against certain big tech and corporations. But in recent article from the AP News, basically it states that law enforcement is now using your own personal social media platforms to create what they think will be a treasure trove of like data of like who you are, what you eat, and all that stuff, to basically make the ultimate profile, to make the ultimate like case if you ever do anything really bad. And it's really crazy to me that we're starting to realize, oh, this is really actually really messed up.
Yeah. Trevor, can you tell me more about your opinions about this? We know the facts now, but
Yeah,
what are your personal thoughts?
I think so. Over the past year, I left Facebook because of this. I genuinely didn't feel like Facebook was for me anymore, but it was a mixture of things. It's one of those things where I don't like having my data everywhere. I really don't. I have free
I mean, does
Facebook.
anybody like having their data everywhere?
No.
Exactly.
It's something I'm not comfortable with, and something I came to terms with is like I need to be more mentally healthy and just take a break from social media.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that a lot of times we are technically signing away our, I guess it's a choice, technically speaking, to have our data given out when we are signing terms and agreements that nobody ever reads, myself included. And I would bet $1,000 that none of you do it either.
No, I tried to one time as a joke and I couldn't do it. It was so boring.
Exactly. It's illegal. Who likes the law? That sounded
Yeah,
bad. Nobody break the law.
It's
No, it's lawyer talk. It's contract talk. It's the type of talk that you
I
will
didn't go to
basically fall
law
asleep to.
school. I'm a media student. It's not worth my time. But my point is that, wow, it's crazy. We are technically signing away these rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And we live in an Orwellian nightmare.
A what?
George Orwell's 1984.
Oh, I thought you said something else. I was like, what
No.
did you just? I was like, do I have to hit the dump button? All right. So what were you saying,
oh,
Thomas?
yeah, I was gonna say like I kind of like quit TikTok over this because like I kind of view them as like the worst offender when it comes to data collection.
They're pretty
And
bad.
yeah, and also there like your data also goes to China, so I mean your data is going to like other countries. Like I like how does wait is Facebook how does Facebook work? Is Facebook collected only by
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
Facebook is used around the world as many.
Yeah, it's
other
used around
social
the world.
media apps.
Zuckerberg literally testified in Congress that
Yeah.
basically they're also able to give away your personal information and data.
Yeah. As
Whether
most
even if those
social media is, it's around
Yeah.
the world.
It
Yes.
is.
I could follow somebody from Iran if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Easily. I could do that on Facebook. I could do that on Twitter, even though I don't have it. I could do that on Instagram. I could do that anywhere. this is an around the world issue.
But where's the backlash over the MySpace data collection now?
MySpace does MySpace still exist? Actually,
It
I'm
actually
curious.
does. I actually created a cache at one point.
MySpace.com. There's no way this actually still thing. Sorry, you keep talking while I try to catch up on what they did in
basically,
2005.
like I think basically there's this whole thing of like of putting yourself out there and creating this fake narrative of how happy you are and how happy your worldview is, and putting up pictures of like selfie, living my best life ever, like that stuff. Like it's, and then you go and then you put the phone away and you just look away and the girl's like, I don't know what to feel anymore. I'm very sad. I'm very empty.
I can confirm MySpace.com is still a thing.
Is the guy who's still there? It's just like I'm so lonely. I don't have anybody on here.
Listen, I'm sure there are still like 6 people there. But this data mining, is this technically data mining? I don't know the actual definition. I'm not going to say that because I can't confirm that. But this data situation is, like you mentioned, Thomas, I almost forgot your name and I work with you all the time, is terrible, mainly on TikTok. And that is a funny point because our general manager, Annabella Poland, she hates TikTok with a passion. And that's one of the many reasons.
Yeah. It's a very bad thing, but it's so addictive to the youth of like, because it's just 1 second things, it's just 2 seconds, 60 seconds. It's simple.
Well, it's also the newest, biggest media platform. And
Yeah.
social media culture.
It's
Everyone
huge.
knows to what platform has the most clout at the moment. And if you want to get big, you can get big on TikTok. So
it is the world for untalented people to become millionaires.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at you, Charlie D'Amelio.
Yes, well,
yeah, it's basically untalented people who try to think that they can push a certain thing
But
on
there
there.
are a lot of people
There's
on there who
talented
deserve the
people.
fame.
Yeah, they are.
I think that's with every social media platform. It's just, we've already even seen this before TikTok. We saw this ever since, I mean, there's always been a history of the US government spying on people and bug wiring and tapping on people, even dating back to the 1950s and 60s during the Cold War, where they unconstitutionally did it. Then in 2013, the Snowden leaks and also the WikiLeaks showed the US government was unconstitutionally spying on people and collecting their data. And it's just been ramping up. And also I saw a statistic as well within the data that you were mentioning that Snapchat fielded nearly 17,000 data requests in the first 6 months of 2020. Yet between 2020 and 2015, they only fielded 762. So this has been ramping up at an extreme rate throughout 2020. And you could even tie that both to COVID-19 and also political and social unrests, with the BLM protests, and also social unrest and several movements on the American right wing as well. And you see more political instability. And as we've seen in other countries like India and several other countries, they're so paranoid in controlling the narrative that they actually wind up shutting down social media or restricting it entirely. And we've already seen moves by the US government from both administrations, both with the Trump administration with tear gassing protesters outside the White House, and also even recently with the Biden administration labeling socialists and people that oppose capitalism and corporate globalization as potential terrorist extremists within their new definition of terrorist extremism, and also with Army anti-terrorist guides as well, with describing people that have certain political views as potentially being a danger to committing acts of terrorism. There's a growing concern that the US government is going to be using this data to harass people through political views that they don't like and they don't want to be seen and put on social media. So
I can tell you one thing. The problem is not just on social media. It's the people who, like I've said before, Twitter is genuinely one of my least favorite websites. It's my least favorite.
I love Twitter, but
I hate Twitter.
The reason I don't have Twitter is just because it's just boring to me.
Twitter is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, but that's what makes it so good, in my opinion.
No, it does not make it good because dumpster fires are fun to watch, but they're not fun for the people who genuinely like pop culture and have to see everything get burned in the sake of and for the sake of a dumpster fire.
It's
If
funny.
you stand by it,
I just don't
you
go
will
on
be
Twitter for all
warmed
the trolling.
comfortably. But if you get too close, you will
Ba-
caught on fire and die. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Had
And
to make
I
that
also
moment.
would. I don't. I mean, I personally don't hold items of pop culture in that much high value, anyways. But that's just me. So I think it's more entertaining, in my opinion, at least, being on Twitter.
Yeah, well, it's just an opinionated topic, really. But I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here, okay? One of the things I hate most is you know the hey Alexa. I hate you, Alexa. Alexa, I wish that you would die, even though you're a robot. I hate you because
I
it's just this situation. It is all right. The robots are gonna come up and overtake the world. That's my theory, and Alexa is the beginning of this
Yeah, she's the
revolution.
beginning of Skynet.
I don't know
I've
what that
said
means, but yes.
The
I've
Terminator
said-
movies, the AI that takes over and turns the Terminators.
I've
Oh,
said
yeah. But this is the beginning in my mind of what is the future, really. Trevor, what were you saying?
I don't have an Alexa and I will never have a Google Home or Google Speaker or anything like that because genuinely I don't like because I've heard horror stories about it listening in on people.
I mean,
And
yeah,
to
This
and
me,
is what
if
the
you have a
future looks
Siri, you
like.
basically don't need one.
I don't use Siri either.
no, I don't
Mm-mm.
use
Siri,
Siri.
get out of my face.
No,
I use Siri just so I can find out if I'm ever at a place and a nice song's playing to find out what song it is.
That's what
I-
Shazam. Siri can do that.
I
Yeah.
can tell you one of my favorite one of the weirder news stories. One of the weirder things was I heard that they tried to create an AI robot based off of tweets, and it basically was really messed up, and it got to the point that they had to shut it down.
Well, that's what happens when you put it on an unfiltered social media site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Speaking of controversies, we have another one that comes from the great state of New Jersey, which we
Best
discussed
state to
last
live
week.
in.
Yeah, that is exactly
Best
what I was gonna
state.
say. This one comes from the Randolph Board of Education. It's about how New Jersey District, the Randolph District, they're reversing a decision that they made, and they're going to add holiday names back onto their school calendar. This is an update from a story that we did on Thursday, and by we, I mean not any of us. I mean Tara Giacchetti and Isaiah Ramirez, the host for that day. Randolph Board of Education did an about face on Monday evening about its decision as after faced tremendous backlash from the public because of this. Following the board's actions, all holidays will be listed by name on the school calendar, including Columbus Day. Then on June 10th, over loud objections, the board voted to label holidays generally on its one-page calendar. Holidays including Christmas and Veterans Day, the good ones, were just
Yeah.
listed as, quote, day off, with no mention of the holiday name. Most members of the public who spoke during the meeting wanted to have the entire calendar changed back to the way it was, with a smaller group calling for only Columbus Day to be called something else, with one suggesting that it should be called, quote, Italian Heritage Day. Quote, we live in a cancel culture and we are very sensitive to that, and we don't want to see that in Randolph, end quote, one resident said during the public comment portion of this meeting. Governor Murphy suggested last week that the board should reconsider its recent vote. These holidays, they exist for a reason, and he's on the side of keeping it as the way that it is. Now, that was a lot of information. I'm going to simplify it for you. Columbus Day bad. School no like. School get rid of Columbus Day. Community no like. School get rid of all holiday. Community no like. School pretend never happened. That's what happened.
Yeah,
Some residents, instead of honoring Native Americans, thought it would be more sensitive to call it Italian Heritage Day, even though that doesn't really.
it's as a person who grew up learning about Columbus and stuff, I can tell you it should have been Indigenous People Day.
Yeah,
And
I don't.
and
Is there an Indigenous People Day? And if so, why have I never heard about it?
It is in certain parts of New Jersey,
It's
but
been a massive push like recently, especially here in several countries, most countries in the third world recognize it as Indigenous Peoples Day. They don't even talk about, they talk about Columbus and obviously the importance of his discovery, but they also talk about the fact that he both held very bigoted views, was a slave owner, and also was a genocidal maniac by every single record in history.
Columbus is a terrible person.
He
Yeah,
is a terrible
horrible
person.
and was basically said at the beginning of the Atlantic slave trade. And they also talk about the importance of Native
Funny
American
essay is he
indigenous
died
people
hundreds of
culture,
years ago.
and how ever since 1492 it was basically never the same, in that they constantly lived under fear and pressure, spreading of war, disease, enslavement, economic enslavement, and also them basically just being ransacked for their supplies and then being paid absolutely nothing in return. So it's been a massive push, especially and recently within the US, especially during 2020, where there was the beginning of like almost this social reckoning within America. There's been more of a push, especially online, to rename it Indigenous Peoples Day, and several pushes within school boards to change it as such. But to say we got to call it Italian Heritage Month is, it's very insensitive, and it's people not reading the room.
Yeah.
It-
Yeah,
it-
and even then,
it's almost something out of
Columbus
the
was
plan that we need to do.
debatably Italian. They're not even too sure about that. If they wanted to honor him, which they should not be
They
doing,
shouldn't.
because he
They
is
should-
one of
they
the
should do
worst
it.
people I have ever read about in history, and I like
they
history.
they should not be honoring somebody who has a very not a great mention in
He's
it.
horrible by any standard.
Bad person, no
Bad
good.
person.
And he
He-
also
but-
he wasn't doing it.
but-
He wasn't part of the Italian like empire or nation. He wasn't doing it for Italy. He was doing it for the sake of colonization and to gain money and, you know, more power and influence within the Spanish Empire as an explorer. That's why he did it. And it was regardless of nationality. It was for the idea of colonization and also his racist views towards indigenous people. So it should be the celebration of indigenous people. And I guess also just going into the other holidays that are talked about, I don't see why. I mean, Veterans Day is quite literally like apolitical, and also like it's regardless of someone's like their ethnic or religious backgrounds, whether or not they are a veteran, honoring veterans that have served in this country. So I don't know why they're including that as a day off. And even Christmas and other like religions, that holiday is still celebrated within several religions, within Islam and Judaism and other religions as well. And it's become almost a holiday that every religious group in almost every single culture celebrates in their own version and their own interpretation and view of Christmas. Even people that are even atheistic celebrate Christmas. So I don't really see why you need to label them as day offs. It's like, okay, we're gonna change the name of Columbus Day, but because we're changing the name of one holiday, we've got to change all of them, which
it's just
No,
it's
yeah.
just
I think
it's
it's
a
what-
blank.
competency, in my opinion.
What were you
I
saying,
think,
Thomas?
I think it's like what Kenny said before, like they were trying to like make everybody happy, and in the end,
They
just like,
wind up
nobody
doing
happy.
the opposite
Yeah.
and making everyone mad.
It's going back to this idea that it's going to the idea of like you can't please everyone. No matter how hard you want to please everyone, you're not going to please everyone. And to me, like
Because everyone, you just make everyone mad.
eventually, yeah,
And that's what they just did. So
that's what they. What do you think, Kenny?
I have so many thoughts. Mainly, Christopher Columbus Day is a terrible holiday. Should not be celebrated. It should be Indigenous Peoples Day. That is number one, and in my opinion, the most important. And I feel like what needs to be done is legislation needs to be passed nationally to make this a thing. While that is not much, because I am a 20-year-old college student from New Jersey. That's just my opinion, and I would bet the opinion of many others. The issue, however, it lies in the fact that there are other people who just feel we should keep it the same, which, while I respect their opinion, I respectfully disagree, because Columbus, like I said, terrible, terrible person in history, one of the worst people I've ever read about in history. So really, at the end of the day, there's not much that we
Yeah,
can
I
do
think
as much
even
as
with
voice our
I-
opinion.
I can tell you, like back in elementary school, we learned about Columbus, and nobody said anything about this when I was going to school in elementary school. Nobody said anything.
Yeah, it
about
was
this.
propaganda in terms of what you were taught was literally these colorful children's books about how it was such a merry time when Columbus.
Christopher Columbus was a extra credit spelling word for me in like first grade.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah,
never forget that.
I mean,
Would
again,
you
that's
spell it
what
though?
happens when
I did spell it right. And
the
fun fact,
victors
Thomas.
write history.
Fun fact, Thomas. Throughout all of elementary school, throughout my entire education, I never got a single word wrong on a spelling test.
Wow. I wish it could be you. I never.
Yeah,
I
I know.
was
I
not
know you.
good.
I know you do. Listen, I can spell.
Are you
All
an
right.
English major?
Am I what?
Are you an English major?
Not at all. I have not read a book since I was in 5th grade, but I can spell for the life of me. Usually people say you can't spell for the life of me, but I can.
It's one of those. It's one of those situations where it's like I cannot spell, but
Yeah. We've gotten into a very odd conversation, so let's just move on to our next story, which is even more odd. Oh, I love this one. So I want you guys to guess, even though,
I already.
yeah, I know you. What would you imagine the record is for stacking M&Ms on top of each other? What would you think the record is?
There's no way it could be 5. No way.
Francis, you ruined it.
Hey,
you ruined it.
You're
You
supposed to
ruined it.
guess
You
it.
goofed it.
Yeah,
You
Joe.
You're
done
supposed to
goofed.
guess it. Well, there's a new Guinness World Record. Some guy stacked 5 M&Ms. I was gonna make it a bigger deal, but Francis ruined it. So, a British man said it took him hours of attempts before he was able to break the record for stacking M&Ms candies. Well,
Hey, they're circular. It's hard to stack circular items.
I mean, he's got a point.
I never realized that because yeah, I'm not good at geometry. Oh well, but keep going.
23-year-old Will Cutbill of Solihull, England, said he had long dreamed of getting his name to the Guinness World Record book, which I'm sure everybody does. It's something I want to do because it's just cool. But it wasn't until the lockdown that he decided to actually make his dream come true. When he found out about the record for stacking M&Ms. The record of 4 M&Ms have been jointly held by Silvio Saba of Italy and Brendan Kelby of Australia before the record-keeping organization verified Cutbill's video, which I'm going to show you in just a second, and issued him a certificate. Quote, when I managed to finally stack 5 M&Ms, I was absolutely ecstatic. I thought, oh my goodness, I've actually done it. 5 M&Ms doesn't sound like a lot, but it was near impossible to do. So I was chuffed when I achieved it. I thought about attempting 6, but there was no chance. 5 was hard enough.
I did put a little bit of a joke down there. Like it's like a guy says like, honey, it's
Yeah.
like
That's a good
I guess
joke, Trevor.
I guess I should say it's like the man says, honey, I stacked 5 M&Ms. That yeah, I think that is a world record, and the wife says, oh, good for you.
This is so funny, India. Honestly, I kind of want to do it now, but I'm gonna play the video that the guy has of his attempts to break the record. We'll be back in just a second to talk more about this because, like I said, this
it's
is
glorious.
absolutely hilarious.
It is glorious.
It's glorious, just like that.
Alright, this is going to be harder than I first thought. That's quite good. Four. Oh no. No.
And
5 M&Ms. 5 M&Ms.
Great job for you, Will. Oh, do you know what my favorite part about that video was? It was the music in the background.
The epic music, right?
Epic adventure music. It made me pumped up. It made me feel like he was gonna go for 6.
It's like those. It's kind of like one of those epic musics that you would hear in like a fight in like a sports movie where the champ is about to win.
Yeah.
And then the underdog just does that, and the underdog wins.
Exactly. Listen. I want to try this so badly, but I've got a problem because I feel like it's 6 M&Ms. All right, how hard could it be? I mean, I'm sure he said the same thing when he thought I was 5 and it took him hours. But my one problem is that I have very shaky hands for some reason.
Yeah.
So I
I
feel like
can.
if I tried it, I would just not keep on knocking it over. But listen, it has been a dream of mine since I was like 8 years old to get my name in the Guinness World Record book, which I feel like that's a dream for everybody.
Haven't you never like reading those massive books as a kid? Like you would be like, "Oh, that's so cool! Oh, the highest jump! Oh, this and the world's tallest man and stuff." Like
Yeah,
it's
this is something I have a chance at.
this is like it's like I have a chance at this.
This requires no skill on my part.
Well,
And if
it kind of
anything,
does.
It
I've got
requires
a
all the
and
skill. What are you talking about?
okay.
Concentration,
Listen,
proper placement of the M&Ms.
listen. I feel like it's possible. Really, it's just stacking it at wherever the highest point is. It's just stacking at the maximum of what the M&M is height wise.
Yeah, honestly, I was reading the stories ahead of time, and I read that one, and I thought for a couple seconds, like, how hard could it be to stack 5 M&Ms? And then I thought about, oh, that's why.
It makes a lot of sense because it's stacking circles on top of each other, which mathematically speaking is nearly impossible because you have to get it at the right degree pretty much every single time. And that's just to get one, which I'm sure is pretty simple. But the higher it gets, the more unstable the stack gets. It's kind of like playing Jenga, just with circles.
Yeah, it's funny to me that you bring up Jenga. It's just I would imagine like a circular version of Jenga would be even more punishing and even more rough to play.
No, of course it would be.
I mean, that is a circular version of Jenga.
There's here are WMSC 90.3. Here, I can't speak.
He's having a
90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. We support playing Jenga with circles. That is all that we have for today on the Morning Buzz. I have been the host of the Wednesday edition, Kenny Horn, joined by my co-host Trevor Gioia and my newscaster. It's funny how I say my newscaster, even though I don't own you. I don't own you, Francis. It's okay. Just to let you know,
I don't own the rights to my name or my property or anything like that.
I don't own you, Francis. And our sportscaster, Thomas Tarter. Thank you for listening.
Pleasure.
Tomorrow, Tara Cicchetti and Isaiah Ramirez will be here. They're a very funny duo. Be sure to tune in if you want to hear some laughs and even get some laughs out of it. They're funny. Goodbye.